Be ready. 5 seconds. As the economic situation arising from the COVID-19 pandemic has increased the stress both in cooperative and banking companies, there was an immediate need for a legislation in this regard. The Honorable Finance Minister has already said that certain amendments were considered necessary in the said Act to provide for better management and proper regulation of cooperative banks, as also to ensure that the affairs of the banks are conducted in a manner to protect the interest of depositors by increasing professionalism and enabling them to raise capital, improve governance, and ensure sound banking under the supervision of the Reserve Bank of India. This bill is to empower the RBI to effectively handle the mishaps or the adversaries in private banks and also in the cooperative banks without any loss of public confidence or disruptions, and will allow the RBI to prepare the reconstruction scheme for failed banks without having to first make an order of moratorium on barring with deposit withdrawals. This will enable the RBI find suitable suitors for a stressed bank. Coming to this bill, I would like to tell why this amendment is crucial. We need to go back to see how many cooperative bank scams have happened in India, as also various malpractices and their implications in these cooperative banks. You may know, sir, that the cooperative banks were established in India to facilitate rural credit and to cater to the needs of small farmers and businessmen. They were popular with middle and lower income groups because of the high interest rate they offered as compared to the commercial banks. However, with the passage of time, most cooperative banks lost their purpose. Excessive state control and politicization further led to their deterioration. By the year 1990, none of the public and the private sector banks were willing to deal with the cooperative banks, and thus, even otherwise healthy cooperative banks were facing a tough time. Since the year 2000 to date, many cooperative banks have been rocked by scams that exposed the malpractices in these banks. Many of these banks did not adhere to prudential norms prescribed by the Reserve Bank of India. So, what I am trying to tell you is about the kind of scams and fraudulent things that have happened in the cooperative banks, and the latest example being the exposure of PMC Bank. The RBI had imposed restrictions on withdrawals. Statutory inspection of the PMC Bank by the RBI revealed a large group exposure to Housing Development and Infrastructure Limited. The modus operandi was very simple. There were around 21,000 bogus accounts through which they manipulated. So, you could not see as to where that money was siphoned off. I have heard that the All India Reserve Bank Employees Association and also the RBI Housing Association have also kept deposit to the tune of 100 to 500 crores of rupees in the same PMC bank. That is the irony. The regulators themselves have put money in such a bank. My point is this: the cooperative banks have for long been the backbone of rural banking since their inception. They have been doing excellent work in the field of rural and cooperative banking. The recent scams in the cooperative banks have been a jolt to the cooperative banking system. Now I come to this bill. Why is this amendment crucial? We are bringing certain cooperative banks under the supervision of the RBI as applicable to commercial banks as a part of efforts to protect the depositors of such cooperative banks. As per the RBI, over the last 2 decades, banking licenses of about 430 urban cooperative banks have been cancelled across the country, in most cases due to their precarious financial position. During the last 5 years, there were around 16 urban cooperative banks whose licenses have been cancelled. The main objective of amending sections 3 and 56 of the Act is to extend provisions applicable to commercial banks to cooperative banks as well, so that the cooperative banks are equally subject to better governance and sound banking regulation. With this, the interest of the depositors will be protected and professionalism will also come into those banks. Amending Section 45 will enable RBI to make a scheme of reconstruction or amalgamation, as was done in the case of Yes Bank, to protect the interest of the public, depositors, banking system, and to secure proper management of a commercial bank without having to first make an order of moratorium, so that the disruption to the financial system may be avoided. The bill will also apply to the societies. The bill also amends Section 3. It will not affect the existing powers of the state registrars of cooperative societies under state laws, nor will the changes apply to primary agriculture credit societies or to the cooperative societies whose primary object and principal business are to provide long-term finance for agriculture development. If such society does not use in part of its name or in connection with its business the words bank or banker or banking, and does not act as a drawee of checks, this amendment has been useful. The bill provides for restricting the cooperative banks from lending to their own directors, which was done in the PMC Bank, and debarring cooperative bank directors employed by or having substantial shareholding in the other companies, which was also done in PMC Bank, and prohibiting them from holding directorship in other banks. Such restriction already applies to directors in the commercial banks and helps ensure that there is no conflict of interest in board decision making. For sound financial management, provisions regarding financial statements, audit, unclaimed deposits, and effective oversight by the regulator that are currently applicable to the commercial banks but not to the cooperative banks are now proposed to be made applicable to the cooperative banks as well. Regulatory approval and removal of auditors will enhance the transparency, restore depositors' confidence, and protect depositors' hard earned savings. The regulator will now be able to make reconstruction scheme in respect of cooperative banks.